When you wake up tomorrow morning, most of you anyway who are listening to this or watching this, the Buffalo Bills are now the ninth seed in the AFC. We are live here, at least on the video side. If you happen to be watching this, we are live quite literally moments after the Buffalo Bills lose a one-score game on the road, Sunday Night Football at Cincinnati, 24-18. A competitive game. The injuries on defense just continue to mount up. And there's a lot of positives in a way, if you want to take away from those when it comes to the Bills. And again, we are live here in the moment. I have not even had 3 minutes, I don't think, to kind of digest everything that just happened tonight.
I want to go home, so I made him start like real quick.
Yes, you certainly did, man. You certainly did. And for everybody out there, thank you for tuning in to Talking
And I'm leaving
Buffalo.
early.
You might leave
And
early.
I'm leaving early.
A little bit, maybe. All right, so listen, man, there are 20 million things that we could get into. We're getting into some tonight. You'll be back on the show Tuesday, so we'll be recording tomorrow as well. Having some time to kind of sleep on this game. We'll talk Sabres and stuff like that more for Tuesday show. Right now, heat of the moment. What's your first thought right now before anything else when it comes to this game? Good, bad, or indifferent? And again, the Bills are now 5-4 after a 24-18 loss to the Bengals. Like, what is the first thing on your mind right now?
First thing on my mind is you calling this a competitive game as if like it really came right down to the wire is a homer take. To me, this game wasn't really that much. I mean, you're going to talk about the fumble and the things, the plays that could have been. Look, every fucking football game has the plays that could have been. To me, this was last week's game, except with us playing the role of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This game was no more competitive than the game that we played against Tampa that somehow or another gave everybody all this optimism going into tonight. We weren't really in it. We were down early and we gave ourselves very little margin for error. We made those errors, and since he ran the clock out at the end, I don't want to fucking hear how competitive the game was. Believe me, I understand what the score was. Okay. I did not do as well as I was, touting that I could do by pounding Cincinnati in a blowout fashion, for this game. But so I'm aware that it only ended a 6-point game, but it wasn't a real competitive game. Cincy did the exact same thing. All right, that we basically did against Tampa Bay. They played to their 2-touchdown lead, and in the end, I'm sorry, the Diggs touchdown, or I can't even remember who
Diggs
scored it because I'm thinking of the two. So Diggs scored the touchdown and the two. All right, fucking garbage time. What? Why? Because we didn't get a stop? Like, whoa, we didn't get a 3rd and 2 stop. No, we didn't get a fucking 3rd and 2 stop. You don't get 3rd and 2 stops right there. All right, you stop guys on 1st and 2nd down to where you get to 3rd and 8. Once you get to 3rd and 2, chances are you're looking at ball game. And to go out and talk about this one as competitive, I'm not buying. I'm not buying. So that's the first thing that really came to mind. The first thing that really came to mind is not some game of like huge missed opportunities or a Kincaid fumble, what else? The timeout, I mean, this is one of those, as is the case with just about every loss. You can have 5 different takes coming out of this game, and you can have 5 different right takes coming out of this game. But the only real take was the better team won, and I would go as far as to say that they won. It's not convincing. I can't use convincing, and I can't find the word that I want to use because we jumped right on.
It felt to you, it felt like a game that was never really in doubt. After the first 10 minutes, it never felt in doubt to you, the outcome.
No,
I think that's fair. I do disagree with you about being competitive, and I'm not being no homer because I'm really fucking pissed off right now. I'm not even going to try to front. We'll get back to that in a second. My first, I asked you for your biggest takeaway, and yours is, or instant takeaway, I should say, and yours is that this game wasn't competitive like the score would indicate. Mine is this. I always try to defend to some extent coaches. I think to some extent people who always blame the coaches for everything are just taking the easy way out. And often to me, it's a lazy take. At the end of the day, I feel like for the most part, players got to go out there and they got to execute the plays. And when they fail to do that, it always seems to fall on poor coaching. And so to some extent, I've kind of been stop blaming everything for coaching. Tonight, would it have made a difference? I don't know, and we will never know. But Sean McDermott, that was just some shit coaching on two levels, on both sides of the football. That might have cost them an extra, Cincinnati had to get one first down, the game was over, and they did. That freaking challenge, when you're down 2 touchdowns and you use a challenge that is, you better be 100% certain. And any idiot with a set of functioning eyes saw the replay on TV and said, there's no way that shit's being overturned. The Bills used a critical timeout on a first down pass to Trent Sherfield, 1st and 10, and you use potentially one of only 2 timeouts you have left with 6 minutes left in the game, and you're down 2 touchdowns. That is inexcusable. It's idiotic and it's stupid. And then I go back to the Bengals play. And look, maybe AJ Epinesa or Greg Rizzo or one of those guys don't make that play anyway. But what in the God's... Ugh, I'm so pissed I can't even get the words out of my mouth. Why is Von Miller out there on 3rd and 3 to wrap the game up? Why is Von Miller out there? He has not done much at all this year. And I'm being generous. How do you not have your 2 best defensive ends out there when you need a stop on 3rd and 3 or the game's over? Vaughn had a clear shot at Mixon, and he whiffed. And this isn't an I hate Von Miller take. My point is, why is he in the game on 3rd and 3 when Cincinnati more than likely is going to try to run the ball and run it out? That's coaching. Sean McDermott runs that defense. He is in charge, coming off a timeout too. He is in charge of who's out there. Why do you have Von Miller out there on 3rd and 3 when you desperately need to stop, or it's literally ball game? Someone explain that to me. Can you explain it to me? That was terrible coaching. Horrible coaching. I won't even start about Ken Dorsey yet, but first let's talk about Sean. That's just inexcusable, dude. He's an inferior coach to a lot of guys out there. I'm just going to leave it at that. And I know a lot of content creators ain't going to like this shit. Tough. Because I'm sick of people defending the guy. This was horrible. He was outcoached so bad this game.
Well, I agree. As far as being outcoached, I said it early because I thought the Bengals offense schematically was getting the better of the Bills, and I feel like early on, McDermott was getting beat with blitzes that weren't working. So I kind of, McDermott kind of got my crosshairs for that. I certainly agree with the challenge. Agree with you with the challenge. But we didn't have a chance to really go over. You were going off about Von, and I had to take one last bathroom break.
You bullied me into starting the stream.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not hung up on the Von part. Who the fuck? Who'd you want?
Rizzo, Epinesa, Shaq Lawson.
I'm sure Rousseau was probably on the other side. There was at least a possibility of a pass.
Has he gotten to the quarterback once this season?
Listen, you're talking to a guy who fucking put up a washing machine meme for Von Miller about a month ago. Okay, I'm not a Von Miller apologist by any stretch of the imagination, but we did see some some steps forward last week, and I think
tonight too.
And tonight too. So the fact that he was in the game, I'm just not that hung up on it. And I also think that in a lot of cases when McDermott's calling the signals out, I think there's probably more of the rotation of D linemen than we know falling on Eric Washington instead of Sean McDermott. I'm not sure in that moment that McDermott even has the time to tell Washington, this is who I want.
Coming out of a timeout on a 3rd and 3?
Look, man, I mean, he's calling the play. I just think it's at least possible. I think it's at least possible that some of the personnel decisions, especially up front, are left to Eric Washington. Sean McDermott did not have a good night. Sean McDermott has not had a good season. Okay. And Sean McDermott's last 2 years of fucking, finding coordinators to replace a head coach and letting one, walk away to take on the duties himself. Sean McDermott has not had a good 2 years. Okay. I'm not here to tell you that Sean McDermott is not at all part of the problem. But tonight to me was a collective loss. Their quarterback was better than ours. Their coach better than ours. And overall, I just think they were the better team tonight, the better coaching staff tonight. And you're not going to be wrong if there's something that you really want to glom onto. All right, whether
I think it's a reasonable thing, though.
Whether it's the Kincaid fumble, there are
that's on the player,
or just the offense as a whole, which to me would be where I'd start. All right, I'd start with the fact that this team fell in a 2-touchdown hole because their offense just totally following that first drive, their offense couldn't get anything
85-yard drive to start the game, 37 yards the rest of the first half combined.
Once you're down 14, all those other things start to get magnified because we use the phrase a lot, you lose your margin for error. And what do we see? What are we grabbing onto? What are we gravitating to? We're gravitating to errors that were made that simply couldn't have been made. But why? Why? Because you fell down by 14 points. You fell down by 14 points, and all these plays that happen on a pretty regular basis across the league on any given weekend. All these plays are magnified because you're trying to dig out of a big hole. A big hole that you probably got into, because of things unrelated to what we're now pointing out, last minute personnel decisions, bullshit like that. What the fuck? We fell into a 14-point hole because our quarterback wasn't nearly as good as the other quarterback. Okay. Right.
In the first half. Sure.
Right. We fell into a 14-point hole because
largely because of that. Not entirely, but sure.
Because Joe Burrow, way outplayed Josh Allen, and Josh had his moments in the second half. The stats may end up
Josh Allen
spun into
26 of 38, 258 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 ugly ass interception, and a rushing touchdown, and he ran the ball effectively. You're right. Joe Burrow was better than Josh Allen tonight, even though Josh did improve in the second half. But Joe Burrow didn't have any bad stretches at all, literally. But going back to Sean McDermott real quick, Tone, I also want to be careful because he deserves some credit on the defensive side of the ball, I think, because these injuries are a son of a bitch. You lose 3 great players to begin with. Greg Rizzo, he did have a pass knockdown tonight, but he's clearly not healthy. Ed Oliver, disappearing act. Just like last year when they played the Bengals in the playoffs and Ed Oliver took the game off. It kind of feels like that was the case again tonight. Now, I don't know if he was hurt, but anyway, you lose Terrell Bernard, who I can't believe we're saying this, but Terrell Bernard, a key loss to the defense. Yeah, they got dominated. And they got dog walked in the first half, but dude, 30 minutes of football in the second half. The Bills gave up a field goal or no? Yeah, field goal. They only gave up 3 points in the second half. I think they had 3 straight stops at one point. Sean McDermott, I'm mad at him as a head coach. I'm not mad at him as a coordinator. I thought the defense played about as good as you can play against a great quarterback on the road in prime time, down 3 starters, 2 guys who literally practiced with the team for 2 days, both played significant snaps, and your middle linebacker goes down in the first half as well. I got no issue with the defense at all tonight. This is on the offense, circling back to what you said. 34 points in the last 5 games combined in the first half, including just 7 tonight too. It's not good enough. At what point are we going to have this Josh Allen? Is he truly elite conversation? I know you were fired up. We watched the game together tonight. You were fired up about any MVP talk with him, pretty early in this game because he's now throwing an interception in 5 straight games. He has a lot of great moments, but he's also had some really costly turnovers, including tonight. It was an ugly ass telegraphed interception to I think it was going to Gabe Davis.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, I don't have a very robust certainly following on Twitter, but it's also true of people that I follow. It's just I can't get too overboard with the fandom. I try to keep it kind of small, and I only want opinions that I think have at least had some thought put into them, or at least have the backing of some reasonable years of unbiased football watching. But even with that, okay, I don't keep receipts. I'm not that guy. All right. But it was out there. It was fucking out there that people were trying to talk about the number of, overall touchdowns for Allen in the year compared to Mahomes and others. And just, I think some have said statistically under some metrics that he's having as good a year as he's ever had. And that should they, come out of this game with a win, there's no reason that with those stats in comparison to others that he shouldn't be in the MVP conversation. And I think that's fucking ridiculous. I think that is utterly ridiculous. I don't care what the stats said before this game. I don't care what they say after. I'm sure whoever those people are not going to double down. Some may double down, not anymore. Some may double down on Dorsey in the past after a bad game for the offense. Nobody's doubled down on the Josh Allen MVP talk. I get that, but it was there. It was there. People were trying to sell the idea that Josh was just as good as he's ever been. Does Josh Allen look as good as he's ever been to you?
No, because he's
not
been
even
too
fucking
inconsistent.
close.
The mistakes are
not even close.
The mistakes that he's making are bad mistakes. Some interceptions could be a misleading stat. Bad breaks, the receiver runs the wrong route, ball's tipped. There's lots of things that can make interceptions skewed. These interceptions that he's throwing this year, I think of this one tonight. I think of that one in Foxborough on the first pass of the game. These are just telegraphed, horrible decisions. And yes, he is playing some good stretches. Josh Allen was really good in the second half tonight. But here's the bottom line. You fall down 21-7 against a good team, you're just 9 times out of 10, you're not going to win. It's as simple as that. Go back to the first half, and let's not overanalyze this. The Bills lost the game because they got murdered in the first half. It was 21-7, and it could have been worse. I already said they had 85 yards on the first drive, and then 37 yards for the rest of the half. Joe Burrow in the first half, 18 of 24 for 181 yards and 2 touchdowns. In the first half, Josh was only 9 of 15 for $120, and again, an interception. The Bengals had the ball for 21 minutes in the first half. 21 minutes they had the ball. They outgained the Bills 176-111, 15 first downs in the first half, 4 of 7 on third downs. And they did all this with Jamar Chase, their best weapon. He only had 3 catches for 9 yards in the first half, and none of that shit mattered. People are going to point to the optimistic signs that the Bills played good defense in the second half. They made the game close, a 1-score game against a great team. But yet again, there's been the problem, like a broken record at this point. The Bills' offense sucks in the first half, and I don't care what any advanced stats say. Doo-doo. You score 7 points. You're not going to beat the Cincinnati Bengals scoring 7 points in the first half. It's just not going to happen.
Chase eventually got his as the game went on.
Of course he did.
But there's really something to be said for the way Burrow spread the ball to other guys.
Those tight ends, Burrow, I never heard of them.
And T. Higgins. All right. You know what I mean? I mean, let's take their number 2, match them up with our number 2. I saw it just post up here a second ago. Gabe Davis, 0 catches.
Yep.
How good was T. Higgins tonight?
Big.
How good was T. Higgins tonight, man?
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. And look,
they're
going to Dalton Kincaid more. I get that, but this is 2 out of 3 games out. Gabe Davis, what is he? He has 1 catch 2 weeks ago for 5 yards. Last week, he has 9 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. This week, I don't even think he had a catch. He didn't even have a catch tonight. Yeah, it was pointed out here on the show. 0 catches. That's 2 out of 3 weeks. We said 1 catch for 5 yards combined, man. It's just
You can point you can point to Davis, you can point to just the absolute non-factor of guys like Sherfield and Hardy, even though Shakir has kind of overtaken them in the snaps department, and Shakir did have a couple catches. There's the Kincaid dynamic. We're not going to ignore his 10 catches, but look, outside of a 3-game stretch in weeks 2 through 4, 2 of which were absolute bottom feeders, maybe not at the time, but they've certainly proven to be that as the weeks have progressed in the Commanders and the Raiders. We're hanging so much of our optimism on how they looked against Miami, and at the tail end of that 3-game offensive stretch. And that has been it. That has been it this year. All right. The Jacksonville game was doing, I don't want to say in large part, but the offense had a big part in the Jacksonville loss. The offense was putrid against the Giants. The offense certainly had a part against the Patriots, and people are using inflated stats from the back end of that Patriots game, all right, to even off some of it. No, I don't want to hear.
And they're going to do that with this game. They're going to do that with this game
too. The offense did not play winning football against the Patriots, and they did not play winning football tonight. The offense looked like there was cause for maybe some optimism last week against a shitty opponent, and we bit. I didn't bite. This team played right to its identity tonight. They played right
What is that?
to of its identity tonight.
What is their identity? I don't know.
Not a championship caliber team.
Okay.
No, the offense wasn't good enough. All right. And even though the defense made adjustments and changes in the second half, there were times when the defense was very much undermanned. Dotson turned his game around and had a really nice second half.
He did. I buried him in the first half on social media, and that was he might have been the best player on the defense.
He had a one really bad drive in particular, a missed tackle on a slant, and then the touchdown that that he just kind of didn't shoot a gap. He just kind of waited for
that was
Mixon, but again, that's a novice eye. I called when I said it, and you tweeted it, you bit it. I was furious at Dotson after Joseph tied up those 2 blockers and Dotson didn't shoot a gap. Like half an hour later, I jump on Twitter. I was like, that motherfucker. Good. But Dotson came around, but still at the same time, Dotson's not Matt Milano. And you mentioned Ed Oliver earlier, how he can disappear sometimes. Ed Oliver struggles without Daquan Jones, man. Ed Oliver, as much as Jones protects the linebackers and helps out a lot there, Ed Oliver really uses that tandem to his advantage as well. And he wasn't good tonight. So point being, the Bills just, I don't know, man, they played exactly like I would have expected them to play. They've every wart that they had were warts that we've seen. An offense that sputters in the first half. A defense that when the chips are on the table, they're not making a play.
Let's do this. I want to take a real quick break. I got some comments from people on the audio side. For most people who are listening, they're hearing this on Monday. We're actually streaming this live on the video side. Got a couple comments right after this quick break that I want to get to that I think are worthy of us hitting on. So let's do that. All right, back here talking Buffalo live after the Buffalo Bills lose to Cincinnati 24-18. By the way, the show sponsored by Imperial Pizza. I want to get to a couple comments that people left that I think are at least worth discussing here. Fred Kelly goes, Pat, you look bad. Well, my favorite football team just fucking lost in prime time. So yeah, I'm not in a real good mood right now. Old friend of mine, Rodney Mazzarella, says we were at the game. We were never in this. Kind of piggybacking what you said. I will say this. I agree. I don't agree with you when you say the game wasn't competitive. I do agree with you. This makes sense that I don't think the score was or the game was as close as a one score game either. And then I want to get to a couple of Ken Dorsey tweets that I saw towards us. Russ Campese says first drive, perfect play calling. Second drive, Dorsey reverts to a moron. Downhill from there. Larry Sieber said we're 27 games into the Ken Dorsey experiment. I've seen enough. I want to say this about Ken Dorsey. First of all, you and I, probably the highlight in terms of humor of this game might have been, it was on first down, but that attempted flea flicker. I got a kick. I don't know why I got a kick out of that play, but I certainly did. But here's the thing, and I saw some people talking about this on social media, a couple of reporters who were at the game, and they were pointing out that Stefan and Gabe, especially Gabe, these guys are going through large stretches where, except for a little, 2-yard dumps underneath, nobody's getting open. Is that on the player not being able to get open? Is that on Ken Dorsey not being able to scheme guys open more effectively? I don't know what it is, but just like I said, Sean McDermott on the game and clock management side deserves a lot of heat. When you've put up 34 points in 5 games in the first half, when you keep talking about how you had to come back in the second half against Jacksonville and against the Patriots and tonight against the Bengals, the heat towards Ken Dorsey, which again, I said this earlier, I hate blaming the coaches all the time because I think it's lazy. But the Ken Dorsey heat, I believe, is warranted right now. Like, where are you at? Are you there with him yet? Like, as if this season ends the way this offense is looking right now. And again, one more thing, then I'll let you go because I'm fucking rambling now because I'm pissed. But the EPA and the advanced metrics are all going to show the Bills because of mainly what they did in the second half. I was an offense that's right up there near the top and all the advanced stats and points scored. But it's not winning football that they're playing on the offensive side of the ball. How much of that's on Dorsey? That's what I'm asking you.
Well, I mean, I think I said it a week ago, and it was kind of in a, in a joking rant a little bit, but I also, kind of backed it up by saying that I do believe it'll end this way. I think Ken Dorsey, his tenure here will be short if this team doesn't win one playoff game. That I understand that things can happen.
Almost feels like a ceiling
where the offense finds its rhythm and maybe the defense suffers a couple more injuries and it doesn't end up being as heavily responsible on the offensive side of the ball for their woes. But I think if the rest of the season just kind of plays out the way this first half does, I think they have to win a playoff game for Dorsey to stick around. I think everybody knows, man. I think everybody knows that that Dorsey's an issue, and I don't know why it's too soon to talk about what it might look like at the end of the at the end of the year. I've always thought he was part of the problem. They're not going to make a change.
Not mid-season, they're not going to.
And it's just
because the stats say the offense is still good.
Bro, it's not.
It is. That's what the stats say. I agree with you, dude. I think this offense
not.
You can't have a good offense that only plays half a game. You can't be effective for half a football game and call yourself a good offense. And I do not care whatsoever what the advanced metrics and stats say. Either moment, it leaves a comment. We're not really contenders. So what do we want out of the season? You're going to think it. This is not a homer podcast, man. And if you guys can't tell, if anything, we get called neggy Nancy's. I've been called smug, negative, all that shit. My guy right here is putting the Bills on blast, which is kind of funny and ironic considering you got a Bills fucking little fleece on.
What am I supposed to do? I mean, I'm still a fan. I
rooted
against my money. You saw just how genuine I was when I said I was rooting against my money tonight.
End of the game,
I
though.
wanted, well, heck, I could have done without that fucking touchdown, and certainly the 2. But
you were not happy. You were like you were
to win.
conflicted to cheer about the Stephon touchdown. Let's admit this on the air now. I saw a little bit of hesitation. Wasn't an immediate fist pump. It was kind of like I don't know how I feel about this touchdown because it might fuck up my bet.
Yeah, that's fair.
That is fair, right?
That's fair. We
Which
were down.
kind of-
We were down to one timeout. We really needed a 3 and out. One fucking first down was gonna be the end, right? One first down was gonna be the end. That game was. I didn't feel like it was gonna. I didn't feel like it was gonna break our way. I like the 2. I like the idea that. It's 6 and not 7, and
you're talking about the 2-point conversion. I don't agree with that.
I didn't either.
I hated it.
I didn't either, but I liked getting it.
Oh, I liked it,
because I thought the pressure. I like the idea of the added pressure on the offense to know that they could potentially lose the game should they not pick up a first down. But I don't know, man. I would have rather just won the bet.
Such a long-winded way of getting to that. You wanted to win the bet, unless the Bills went outright.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, but I didn't feel like that was in play. Anyone who really felt like, at the point where it got to 21-7 and then even 21-10, opening up the second half with a field goal where that drive fizzled out. I can't even remember the sequence that fizzled that drive out, but there's always something.
Yeah.
Right. Let's get back. We'll get back to Dorsey. There's always something fizzling these fucking drives out.
Yeah.
Always something. To me, it is blatantly obvious that Allen and Daboll simply had a greater sense of what they wanted to accomplish than Allen and Dorsey do, or
no question
perhaps
about it.
Allen, Dorsey / McDermott, because we both said that we do think McDermott has started to, put his fingerprints on this offense a little bit, things that have hindered it, like Josh's running and things like that. They're in a bad place offensively, and
there's not a lot of room for error when you're in a bad place offensively. Like that Dalton Kincaid fumble, which for the record, the kid had 10 catches. You were with me, so I mean, I'm not lying here. The catch before that, earlier, I think it was on the drive, I felt like he was going to fumble. I even said something. You and my son were watching the football game together. Sure enough, the next play, which it wasn't a lazy, dumb play by him. It was a hell of a play by the Bengals guy. He was in midair, punched the ball out, great play. But it kind of just, you felt that coming a mile away. And when you're struggling to put up points like the Bills are, especially against a good football team, you can't have that, man.
Yeah, it's conflicting with Kincaid, though. And I think one of the things that what I would call what we saw on some of his earlier receptions in the game, Kincaid seems to be a hard-nosed finisher, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's not a hard-nosed finisher, all due respect to him, although I know he broke a couple tackles early in the game. Like, Stephon Diggs isn't really a hard-nosed finisher. When Stephon Diggs sees that, this play's a wrap, all right, I'm protecting the football and I'm getting down.
He doesn't fumble though. So I mean, I gotta take that.
Bro,
never.
Okay. Kincaid, though, man, he's a hard-nosed finisher, and I think that's what made us nervous earlier in the game, and not really surprised to see what happened. Especially when he went airborne, man. Airborne's really, really
he did it a couple
dangerous.
times previous and got away with it. Didn't lose the ball. It's a tough play, man. It's a tough play again, an offense with no margin for error, but you know what? I want Dalton Kincaid to play that way. I don't want him to fumble again. It was just a great play by the defensive guy. I don't even have that much of a problem with it. It sucked. It was frustrating to watch because the Bills were well on their way to scoring on that drive. I will say this before the game too. This was the first game. I told you this before the game. I tweeted about this too. This is the first time since going all the way back to the 2020 AFC Championship game against the Chiefs where I went into a Bills football game not expecting them to win. I mean, they've played the Chiefs a couple times. They played the Bengals at home in the playoffs last year. They've lost plenty of times. But I never went into a game not expecting Buffalo to win until tonight. So I'm not surprised. I came into this game saying if they get their asses handed to them and get smacked, I feel like the season's over. I don't feel like the season's over right now. I'm not optimistic about their chances of going to the Super Bowl, but I don't feel like their season's over. I continue, and I know this is maybe a little bit overly optimistic, but I still feel that there's enough talent on this team to fix some of the shit that they got to get correct before the playoffs. It's going to come down to me, to coaching, and if they could beat a couple good teams, because their schedule is going to get really hard soon.
Well, that to me, that's today kind of a microcosm of that, right? What's been our catchphrase? Margin for error. We left ourselves with no margin for error.
Talk about playoffs now, too.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the point.
I stole your point.
That's fine. within this game, they left themselves with very little margin for error, and that is a microcosm of the season right now, because they can't, right? They can't lose to Denver or the Jets.
No.
Right? They are
or New England at home. That's three games you got to win all three of those games. 100%.
So the margin for errors on their playoff hopes have become
they're the 9th seed Monday morning here as people are waking up. Majority of people listening to this. We talked about this 2 weeks ago. We talked about this.
Well, because this one was always an L.
We're scoreboard watching.
This one was always an L.
Agreed.
It's never not going to be an L.
I agree.
Just like Philly's going to be an L. Just like Kansas City's going to be an L.
All right. If they were playing the Chiefs or
Dallas
the
is a swing game. Dallas is the
Chargers
swing game.
Is a swing game too.
Yes.
So you got to win those 3 gimmies that we talked about. Denver, the Jets, which shouldn't be a gimme the way the Jets always play the Bills, in New England. That gets you to 8 right there. You got to win 2 other swing games to get to 10. I think it's going to take 10 wins to get in the playoffs for sure. So Chargers is a swing game. Dallas, because it's at home, is a swing game for sure. At Miami, a swing game. Who knows? That might end up being for the Bills to get in the playoffs. That's worst case. Best case, that might be for the Bills to have a chance to win this division. We'll see how it plays out. You think that? I don't think the division's over, because I don't think Miami's that good. They beat up on shit teams, which, hey, that's how the Bills used to be. The Bills beat the shit out of shitty teams. They flex on you. They get into a track mean. They run all over you. And then when the Bills get punched in the mouth, the last couple of years I'm talking about, they would fold and they would lose some close games. They lost 3 games last year by 8 points combined? Kind of feel like that's how Miami is right now.
Yeah, I mean, fuck it. I can't rule out the fact that that I can no longer ignore the Dolphins' wins or lack thereof against the better teams.
They've lost 6 straight games.
Yeah, I can't. I wanted to push that to the side a little bit, because I felt like they were just a good football team who ended up losing to a real hot Bills team that one day, and a Super Bowl participant from last year in the Eagles. But today, the way they showed up today, and kind of a big part the way Tua looked today. All right, it looked just kind of it looked mid. It looked pretty mid today.
Just got to get after him.
It's starting to feel like there's something behind that. So maybe maybe an 11th win. You know what I mean? Maybe an 11th win. It's in a series sweep against Miami. Maybe 11 gets it done. I wouldn't have thought that 11 gets it done. As a matter of fact, I loved Miami today. But maybe now the division is closer than I thought, because now I'm starting to buy into the fact that Miami's not being good.
I want to say this. I think Cincinnati is the best team in the AFC. I thought that before the game, and I still think that after the game. I feel like they actually could have won this game by more. If I'm a Bengals fan, I'm a little bit annoyed that they only won by 6.
Doesn't it? Didn't it feel like
it feels like how the Bills beat Tampa last week?
Exactly,
exact same thing, man. It's like,
that's how it felt.
We won. It feels like it should have been a lot more.
Took their foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. Quickly, we'll talk about this more tomorrow, like generally around the NFL. But I do want to point out, so Cincinnati, let's just say again, for the sake of discussion, you got Miami, you got Baltimore, you got Kansas City, and you got Jacksonville. Look, they win the divisions. By the way, Baltimore's really good. We'll talk about that more tomorrow. Cincinnati's 5-3 now. Pittsburgh's 5-3. Cleveland's 5-3. Those right now today are your three wild card teams. Cincinnati,
the Jets could easily go to
the
5-3.
Jets are 4-3
tonight.
as of this recording, and they're playing tonight against the Chargers. You could be looking at four teams that are 5-3. But even if you think the Jets are going to fall off, I still think the Jets ultimately will fall off some, be around 500. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland, those are three teams that could get to 10 wins. And they're all in the same division, too. It's pretty wild. All four teams right now in the AFC North would be in the playoffs if they started right now. So pretty wild. One last thing I wanted to get to, and then, like I said, we'll kind of sleep on this and have some breakdowns. You're laughing here. I thought
a little here we go Steelers.
Yeah, here we go.
From a buddy of
a couple
mine.
Steelers fans here and now.
Dave, did you go take a piss, Dave? You've had to piss since the beginning.
I didn't want to put that up on.
Fuck that. That was the greatest comment of this entire.
I have to go take a piss.
Entire thing. I have to go take a piss.
Fair. I wanted to comment on. And now I want to preface this by saying it didn't. It's not the reason the Bills lost, so no excuse here whatsoever. But the officiating sucked again, and this is just more and more becoming a problem. There was a tripping call on Kincaid that did not get called. That intentional grounding on Josh Allen was complete bullshit. That was a terrible call. There were another handful of really bad calls this game too. Gabe Davis on that 3rd and 9. You say he didn't have any catches. He might have had one. He got his face mask yanked on him. It was literally, you could see a photograph of it. His face mask is off to the side as he's trying to make a catch in the end zone. Officiating's a problem, and it's just continuing around the league. We talked about this today. I don't think you saw the play, but this guy from Washington earlier in the day, all he did is sack the quarterback from behind, and he got called for roughing the passer. I'm like, what in the hell are these guys supposed to do? More and more officiating is just, by the way, Dave Anderson did he did go urinate and use a lavatory. He wanted to make sure he let us know that in the feed. But anyway, here to wrap up, but just the officiating was bad tonight. Then not the reason the Bills lost, but the officiating was bad.
Yeah.
As I talked to an official.
Here's the thing, though. I don't defend officiating because, it's an avocation of mine. I defend the officiating because I think it's just leaned on so much for excuses and whiny narratives that really just kind of go both ways. The intentional grounding was the only terrible call as far as I was concerned. That was awful. I had to run to the store at halftime, and as they went to half, Chris Brown was just like beside himself over it. I mean, get over it, man. Get the fuck over it. That call probably saved the Bills 3 points because you're good. You're about to try one from 56 and you turn the ball over around, the 40, 45 yard line, since he's 2 completions away from drilling one themselves. That would have been, you want to talk about the day that Sean McDermott had, throw that decision in there, a decision where he basically got saved from himself, okay, because of the intentional grounding call. I hear the roughing the quarterbacks and how bad those are and all that stuff. And I see it on Twitter, and I see it from legitimate sources, not just fan whining and whatnot, but I don't get hung up on it. If anything, our quarterback has bought us more bullshit, personal fouls against him than anything that we could ever whine about. If anybody's whining today about officiating, you're fucking a loser.
Last thing here, and then we'll get out. And again, we'll be back tomorrow.
No, that's actually, can I rephrase that?
You sure can.
You're a fucking loser, not you're fucking a loser. I don't know. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want to call the person you're fucking a loser. I want to call you a loser.
Is there anything about how you feel right now recording this? What are we're well after midnight now. The game's over, obviously. You feel any different about this team now, good or bad, than we've done the last couple weeks? Because it kind of feels like the premise of our shows, weekly here after Bills games has kind of been the same. And tonight really didn't feel any of that different to me, other than the fact that They didn't have the margin for error that they did against Tampa and the Giants in New England, or even Jacksonville to an extent, because just Cincinnati's that good. But it's the same story. The defense sleptwalked through the opening drive, which I feel like every Bills game, the defense sucks on the first drive. And the offense just, I don't care what the advanced metrics are. They put up 7 points again in the first half, yet again. It's like, what's different about this game and this team right now than you might have felt before the game started? The only thing I could come up with is that I don't agree with you. I feel like it was at least reasonably. I thought the team was at least reasonably competitive. When it was 21-7 at half, I thought this could have easily become a 42-14 type game, and it didn't. So I thought the defense bared down and played well in the second half, short-handed too. So I feel a little bit better about their ability to keep a game close, but I don't feel better about this offense playing good four-quarter football because they're not. They're not.
Yeah, no, man. My feelings on them have been the same since the Jacksonville loss, right? What Jacksonville put us to? 3-2? Right? We were 3-1 after Miami. Jacksonville
Yep.
put us
We lost
to
to Jacksonville in 3-2. It's just the offense.
I thought the offense was.
Let me bring up a point because you brought this up during the game, and you're right. Cincinnati was just, especially in the first half, they were just making everything look so easy and effortless. Where you've said this multiple times, every yard for the Bills feels like a grind right now. Even when they score a touchdown, it's like every blade of grass on the football field feels contested by the defense. Where Cincinnati's just moving the ball so easily and effortlessly, man.
Yeah, they look like they're laboring. They look like they're laboring all the time to get their yards. The only time, and I mean, I was fired up, man. I was fired up after the first drive. I saw that first drive, and I was just like, man, Josh is throwing with zip. He's throwing with conviction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's using Shaqiri at a great toss to Kincaid. Man, it just, that looked like an offense that, you know, they were doing it in chunks. They were doing it in chunks. They looked like they were prepared to match Cincinnati all night long. Like if I could have, well, I mean, I could have just pulled my phone out of my pocket. I just wasn't really that interested in doing it. But I mean, that looked like that looked like an adjusted over, right? Like, I mean, probably after those two teams traded early touchdowns, I'm sure that over went up well over 50. And I would have liked it, but as soon as that second drive started from then on, it just looked like the yards were so hard to come by. And how can you not go back to the coordinator when you have an offense that just looks so challenged at gaining
couldn't agree more.
Anything.
And at the end of the day, and we don't talk about this enough, and I think we're going to tomorrow, the turnovers. 2 turnovers on offense. One, just a great play by the Bengals. Take your hat off to the defender. A great knockout of the ball of Dalton Kincaid in midair. And then the other one, just an ugly Josh Allen interception. I don't have one specifically, but I know there's been a couple people who've been in the comments, and they're not wrong. They talk about the defense. They're playing well, but they're not taking the ball away. And that was another factor. At the end of the day, this was a one-score game, and the Bengals got 2 turnovers, and the Bills didn't get any turnovers. I don't have the stats in front of me for the season, but I don't think the Bills have taken the ball away much on defense. And they're turning the ball over way too much on offense. You can't have a quarterback and call him an MVP candidate or even elite if he's turning the ball over as much as Josh Allen is. That's just, I don't know. That's where I arrive at with this team. They're too flawed to lose the turnover battle every single week like it seems they're doing.
Yeah, he's just not playing consistent Josh Allen football.
Consistent, right. Yes. He's showing signs.
You want to throw Jag stats up there or Patriot game stats up there and somehow spin the narrative to he's having a good season overall because the stats you like, dictate that. Look, I don't care. I'm not going to fight you on Twitter. I got a million fucking better things to do. Actually, they're not better. They just require my attention more than fucking arguing on Twitter does. But they're wrong. You're wrong. Okay. Josh Allen has played very inconsistent football for what we need, for the level that we need him to play to, to overcome these injuries and be a contender, even with the injuries, or even without the injuries. I don't necessarily think that suddenly the defense would be so much better that the complementary football would just come along with it. I think we would probably be just as challenged offensively as we are, if we were healthy. And the chicken or the egg, man, the coordinator or the quarterback, I don't know, fucking debate amongst yourselves. I don't care. All I know is it hasn't been good enough this year. And we're staring down the barrel of the window for this group closing much in the fashion that a lot of people that we just thought were trolling us in the off season felt like it was possible, and we're living it out. We're living it out.
Consistency to me is the single biggest thing. We're seeing Josh Allen flashes and stretches, but we're not seeing 4 quarters of great Josh Allen football. And we haven't seen that since the Miami Dolphins game. I'll close with this. Josh Allen was not the better quarterback on the football field tonight. There's no question about it. Joe, we said consistency. Name me 3 bad Joe Burrow plays tonight. I can't think of any. Name me 3 terrible throws that he made, or throws that were late, or bad decisions. I can't think of 2, let alone 3. The whole game.
The one screen where he led the guy a lot, one
not a big deal
stuff
though,
like that, but he was excellent.
Nothing of consequence.
Yeah, Burrow was excellent. And they're back to being an AFC favorite, and we are not in a playoff position.
No, we're not. And by the way, as we get out of here, I got to shout out my wife, who actually, for once, is actually watching the show. Terrible take. It's one of those Jim Moore playoffs takes.
That's pretty good.
Again, when a game, Gabe not involved. She's not wrong, though. Gabe involved. He goes to loss every time. Look at those stats. All right. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, but think about that, though. Think about that. Where the fuck was that? You find a way to get Gabe 9 catches or whatever it was.
Because he was schemed last week.
Tampa.
He was not part of this
schemed
plan.
Into it. He's not schemed into it.
He was not part of the game plan
at all tonight. What was the fucking game plan tonight? Anyways, after that,
Kincaid.
Just Dorsey's fucking awful.
He is, and
he's kind of awful, man. He's kind of awful.
This game, more than any other game this season, and this will be a central premise of our conversation tomorrow, is I think the coaching tonight might have been the worst coaching of the season.
Yeah, that's what I want. You know what? I wanted to say that when you asked me, what do you how you feeling right now? And the overriding feeling is the same. They played a game tonight much the way like I expected it to be. But that is one thing that I think is starting to creep in a little bit, and that is the coaching, the pressure on McDermott, the terrible decisions tonight on the replay. And I still put the 56-yard field goal in that category too. I think that would have been an awful decision. And and Dorsey, whatever to whatever extent you believe that McDermott has his hands in the offense, that side of the football is looking like it's not finding a way to turn around
and it's healthy too. We could pick apart the defense and use injuries as a plausible excuse for some of the underperforming, but on the offense, there is no excuse. They're healthy.
It's time to start wondering whether or not the coaches can dig us out of this.
Yep. And we'll talk more tomorrow. For Tone Bucks, I'm Pat Moran. Thank you for listening. Again, Bills talk and some Sabres talk as well with Tone Bucks right back here tomorrow.